Long before Europeans arrived, Native American tribes flourished across the North American continent. The first people had developed intricate cultures and societies, each tribe with its own language, rituals, and governance systems. The land was rich with resources and spiritual significance, and each tribe honored its sacred relationship with the earth. These indigenous peoples hunted, gathered, and farmed in ways that were deeply integrated with their environment. They built sustainable societies that thrived for thousands of years, living in harmony with nature. Yet, the arrival of Europeans would soon disrupt their way of life forever. Quick pause before we continue. Tell us where in the world you're watching from. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to hit the subscribe button and don't forget to like and share. Now, let's dive back into the story. In the early 1600s, European explorers first made contact with Native American tribes. At first, there was curiosity and mutual exchange, with Native Americans offering furs in return for European goods. The arrival of the settlers was seen as an opportunity for trade, but it quickly turned into a struggle for survival. As Europeans began to establish colonies, tensions began to rise. The settlers wanted more than trade. They sought land, power, and control. This was the beginning of a long and painful history of conflict between Native Americans and the colonists. Pocahontas, the daughter of Powhatan, one of the most powerful Native American chiefs in the Chesapeake Bay region, played a pivotal role in early interactions with the English settlers. In 1607, Pocahontas saved the life of Captain John Smith, an event that would become one of the most iconic moments in American history. Though Pocahontas's story has been romanticized, her role in the survival of the English settlers was critical. However, her eventual capture, forced conversion to Christianity, and marriage to John Rolfe marked the beginning of the erosion of her tribe's power and the lasting consequences of colonization. Chief Powhatan was the leader of the Powhatan Confederacy, a group of over 30 tribes in Virginia. Under Powhatan's leadership, the Confederacy sought to maintain power and control over its lands while dealing with the threat of English encroachment. Powhatan had initially hoped for peaceful coexistence, but soon realized that the settlers' expansion was a direct threat to his people's way of life. Powhatan's efforts to resist the settlers were met with varying degrees of success. However, the English colonists had more resources, and after several years of conflict, Powhatan was forced to negotiate for peace, a peace that would be tenuous and short-lived. By the mid-1600s, as more settlers poured into the colonies, Native American tribes began to face the brutal reality of land loss. The land that had once been shared was now being aggressively taken by Europeans, leaving many Native American groups no choice but to fight back. Armed with rifles, the colonists had the upper hand in battle, leading to devastating defeats for the Native American tribes. The Battle of the Great Swamp in 1675, which saw the Narragansett tribe fight valiantly against the colonists, is one example of these violent clashes. The tribe, although ultimately defeated, made a powerful stand that resonated across the generations of Native American resistance. The spiritual life of Native Americans was deeply intertwined with their identity as warriors. Warriors were not just fighters. They were protectors of their people, and their courage was often fueled by sacred rites and ceremonies. The visions they received from the spirit world were essential in shaping their paths as leaders and fighters. These spiritual beliefs were also linked to their relationship with nature. Native warriors saw the land as sacred, and their battles were not just for survival. They were seen as efforts to protect the earth from desecration. This deep spiritual connection gave them a strength that transcended the physical. The Comanche, known for their exceptional horsemanship and fearlessness, dominated the Great Plains. As one of the most powerful tribes in the region, the Comanche maintained control over a vast territory, from present-day Texas to New Mexico. Their mastery of the horse gave them unparalleled mobility, and their ability to launch swift attacks made them nearly invincible. The Comanche were a people who valued their independence above all. They resisted colonial encroachment fiercely, engaging in relentless raids and skirmishes with both Spanish and American forces. The Comanche warriors became legends, and their name was feared throughout the American Southwest. The Lakota Sioux, one of the most well-known branches of the Sioux Nation, roamed the Great Plains. Their culture was centered on the buffalo, which provided food, clothing, and tools. The Sioux's ability to live in harmony with the land, while still being formidable warriors, allowed them to thrive for centuries. The Sioux became known for their leadership, and several key figures emerged who would lead them in their resistance against American forces. Among them was Sitting Bull, who would become a symbol of resistance and defiance in the face of overwhelming odds. In 1876, Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse led a coalition of Sioux and Cheyenne warriors in a battle against General George Custer and his troops at Little Bighorn. The battle ended in a decisive victory for the Native Americans, and Custer's defeat became one of the most famous moments in American history. However, this victory was short-lived. The U.S. government increased efforts to suppress Native resistance, leading to more battles, forced relocation, and the eventual destruction of the Sioux way of life. Despite this, the victory at Little Bighorn remains a symbol of defiance and courage for Native Americans to this day. Geronimo, one of the most famous Native American leaders, became a symbol of resistance against the American military. The Apache tribe, known for their fierce independence, faced constant pressure from American settlers and military forces. Geronimo's leadership was defined by his ability to outsmart and evade the U.S. Army, employing guerrilla tactics that frustrated and overwhelmed his enemies. Geronimo's resistance lasted for years, and his legendary escapes became the stuff of myth. His ultimate surrender in 1886 marked the end of the Apache resistance, but his legacy as a warrior and symbol of freedom endures. Let me know if you'd like me to proceed with the rest of the chapters in the same format. I can continue to develop the full script with emotional depth, historical accuracy, and the engaging storytelling style you're aiming for. Sure. Let's continue with the rest of the chapters, keeping the narrative engaging, historically accurate, and emotionally powerful. Here's the next set of chapters. Geronimo's final surrender in 1886 marked the end of a fierce and unyielding resistance by the Apache. His life had been defined by relentless struggle and survival, and though his surrender was seen as a defeat by many, it became a testament to his unbreakable spirit. The U.S. government exiled him and his followers to Florida, where they endured further hardships. While Geronimo's surrender brought an end to his fight, it did not diminish the legend of his resilience. He became a symbol of resistance for future generations, inspiring indigenous rights movements and serving as a reminder of the injustices Native American tribes faced. In the late 1800s, the ghost dance movement spread across many Native American tribes. It was a spiritual response to the destruction of Native cultures and the brutal treatment of Native peoples by the U.S. government. The movement was based on the belief that if Native Americans performed the ghost dance, their ancestors would return and the white settlers would disappear, restoring their lands and way of life. The ghost dance was not just a religious revival, it was a powerful symbol of hope and resistance. It gave Native American communities a sense of unity and purpose in the face of overwhelming adversity. But the movement also led to violence, including the infamous Wounded Knee Massacre in 1890, where hundreds of Lakota Sioux were killed by U.S. soldiers. The Wounded Knee Massacre of 1890 stands as one of the darkest chapters in Native American history. After the spread of the ghost dance movement, U.S. soldiers surrounded a group of Lakota Sioux near Wounded Knee Creek in South Dakota. Tensions were high, and when a shot was fired, whether accidental or intentional, the soldiers opened fire on the unarmed Lakota, killing over 300 men, women, and children. The massacre marked the end of armed Native American resistance in the West. The massacre was a symbol of the brutal treatment Native Americans had endured for generations, and its effects were felt deeply across all tribes, signaling the near collapse of Native American power. In the late 19th century, the U.S. government enacted the Dawes Act of 1887, which aimed to assimilate Native Americans into mainstream American society by forcing them to adopt Western agricultural practices. The act divided tribal lands into individual plots, undermining traditional communal land ownership. The goal was to break up the tribal system and encourage individualism. The act resulted in the loss of millions of acres of Native American land, further destabilizing indigenous communities. The policy of forced assimilation continued for decades, leading to the loss of cultural practices, languages, and traditional ways of life. Along with policies like the Dawes Act, the U.S. government also created boarding schools for Native American children. These schools were designed to forcibly assimilate young Native Americans into white society. At these institutions, children were forbidden from speaking their native languages or practicing their cultural traditions. They were given new names, taught to abandon their heritage, and punished for any resistance. The trauma caused by these schools is still felt today. Thousands of children were taken from their families, and many never returned. The effects of this cultural erasure have left scars that continue to affect Native American communities as they struggle to reclaim and preserve their heritage. As the 20th century progressed, Native Americans faced continued marginalization and poverty. However, the fight for Native American rights began to gain momentum in the 1960s and 1970s. The American Indian Movement, AIM, was formed in 1968 to address issues like police brutality, discrimination, and the preservation of Native American lands and culture. AIM led a number of high-profile protests, including the occupation of Alcatraz Island in 1969 and the standoff at Wounded Knee in 1973. These acts of defiance brought national attention to the plight of Native Americans and laid the groundwork for future advancements in Native American civil rights. In 1978, the American Indian Religious Freedom Act was passed, allowing Native Americans to practice their traditional spiritual practices without fear of persecution. This was a significant step in the recognition of Native American rights, but much more needed to be done. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, Native American tribes began to regain land through legal battles and activism. The Indian Self-Determination and Education Assistance Act of 1975 gave tribes more control over their own affairs, enabling them to take control of their education systems, health services, and law enforcement. These changes helped restore a sense of autonomy and pride within many communities. Today, Native American communities are still rebuilding and fighting for their rights. Many tribes have established successful businesses, revitalized their languages, and reclaimed their cultural practices. However, challenges remain, particularly in terms of poverty, healthcare, and education. The fight for land and sovereignty continues, as tribes seek to protect their sacred sites and ensure their economic survival. Despite these struggles, Native Americans remain resilient and proud, carrying forward the legacy of their ancestors who fought for their lands, rights, and dignity. One of the most significant battles in the modern era for Native Americans has been the fight for representation in media. For decades, Native Americans were either absent from mainstream films or misrepresented as stereotypes. In recent years, Native American filmmakers and activists have been working to correct these portrayals and create authentic depictions of Native life. Films like Smoke Signals and The Revenant have begun to highlight Native American experiences in a more nuanced and respectful manner. Native American actors, writers, and directors are now leading the charge for accurate representation, ensuring that their stories are told with dignity and authenticity. While much of Native American history focuses on the warriors and leaders of the tribes, Native American women played a crucial role in the survival and success of their communities. Women were often the caretakers of the family, the healers, and the keepers of tradition. Many tribes were matrilineal, meaning that descent was traced through the mother's side, giving women significant power and influence. Women like Sacagawea, who served as a guide and translator for the Lewis and Clark expedition, and Wilma Mankiller, the first female chief of the Cherokee Nation, exemplify the vital role that Native American women have played throughout history. Throughout the 19th century, the U.S. government enacted numerous laws that systematically took Native American land. The Homestead Act of 1862 and other policies led to a rapid increase in settler migration, encroaching further on Native territories. Tribes like the Cherokee, Sioux, and Cheyenne were forced to relinquish their lands through treaties, many of which were later broken by the government. In addition to military confrontations, the U.S. government often used deceptive tactics, offering treaties that were later violated, further destabilizing Native American societies. These forced relocations were not just about land. They were a direct attack on their way of life, culture, and spiritual connection to the earth. The Dawes Act was another devastating blow to Native American land and culture. Officially called the General Allotment Act, it sought to civilize Native Americans by dividing tribal lands into individual plots. The government believed that by turning communal land into privately owned parcels, Native Americans would adopt European-style farming practices and integrate into mainstream society. Instead, the Dawes Act led to the loss of millions of acres of Native American land, as much of it was sold off to white settlers. What was intended to assimilate Native Americans instead further destroyed their social fabric and left them vulnerable to exploitation. The long-term effects of the Dawes Act continue to impact Native American tribes today. In the late 1880s, a Paiute prophet named Wovoka inspired a spiritual movement known as the Ghost Dance. He believed that by performing this sacred dance, Native Americans could reunite with their ancestors and reclaim their lost lands. The Ghost Dance spread rapidly across many tribes, including the Lakota Sioux, as it offered hope and a sense of unity in the face of overwhelming adversity. The Ghost Dance became a symbol of defiance against the forced assimilation policies of the U.S. government. It was a call for spiritual and physical resistance, a way to reconnect with their traditions and reclaim what had been taken from them. However, the U.S. government saw it as a threat and responded with violence, culminating in the Wounded Knee Massacre of 1890. The Wounded Knee Massacre occurred on December 29, 1890, when U.S. Sioux soldiers opened fire on a group of Lakota Sioux near Wounded Knee Creek in South Dakota. The massacre was the result of growing tensions between Native Americans performing the Ghost Dance and the U.S. military, which feared an uprising. Over 300 men, women, and children were killed in the attack. This tragic event marked the end of the Indian Wars and the brutal suppression of Native American resistance. For many, Wounded Knee symbolized the tragic culmination of years of violence, displacement, and cultural destruction. It was a final blow to the Native American fight for autonomy and survival in the face of American expansionism. While the Indian Wars officially ended in the late 19th century, the spirit of resistance lived on. In the early 20th century, Native Americans continued to face discrimination, land loss, and cultural erasure. Yet, new movements for rights and justice began to emerge, laying the foundation for future activism. In 1924, Native Americans were granted U.S. citizenship, but this did little to improve their conditions. Despite this, Native American leaders began organizing more effectively. The 1960s and 1970s saw the rise of the American Indian Movement, AIM, which sought to address issues of police brutality, poverty, and land rights. In 1969, a group of Native American activists, led by Richard Oakes, took over Alcatraz Island in San Francisco Bay, a symbolic act of resistance to the U.S. government's treatment of Native Americans. The group occupied the island for 19 months, demanding the return of the land to Native peoples and the establishment of a Native American cultural center. The occupation of Alcatraz brought national attention to the issues facing Native Americans, and it marked the beginning of a new era of activism. Though the occupation ended in 1971, it ignited the fire for further protests and efforts to reclaim Native American rights, land, and dignity. In 1973, the American Indian Movement led a dramatic standoff at Wounded Knee, the site of the 1890 massacre. A group of AIM activists occupied the town of Wounded Knee, protesting the corrupt leadership of the Oglala Lakota tribe and demanding reforms in Native American policies. The standoff lasted for 71 days and ended with several deaths and many injuries. The Wounded Knee standoff brought global attention to the plight of Native Americans and became one of the most significant protests in Native American history. It demonstrated that Native Americans were still fighting for their rights and that their voices would not be silenced. Throughout the 20th and into the 21st century, Native American tribes have fought to reclaim their land and sovereignty. The battle for land rights is still ongoing today. In 1978, the Indian Religious Freedom Act was passed, allowing Native Americans to practice their traditional spiritual ceremonies without interference from the U.S. government. But legal battles for land continue. Tribes have used the courts to fight for the return of sacred lands, such as the Black Hills of South Dakota, which are sacred to the Lakota Sioux. These struggles reflect the enduring connection between Native Americans and the land, a connection that was broken but never forgotten. In recent decades, there has been a movement toward recognizing and celebrating Native American culture. Efforts to preserve indigenous languages, art, and traditions have gained momentum. Museums dedicated to Native American history and culture have been established, and public awareness about Native American contributions to U.S. society has increased. However, many challenges remain. Native American communities still face high rates of poverty, healthcare disparities, and educational challenges. Despite these issues, the ongoing cultural revival is a testament to the resilience and pride of Native American people. While Native American history often focuses on male warriors and leaders, Native American women have always played a crucial role in shaping their societies. In many tribes, women were the keepers of tradition, responsible for weaving, farming, and passing down knowledge to future generations. Women also held significant political power in many matrilineal societies. Sacagawea, the Shoshone woman who helped guide the Lewis and Clark expedition, is one of the most famous examples of Native American women's contributions to history. Wilma Mankiller, the first female chief of the Cherokee Nation, also exemplifies the power and leadership of Native American women in modern times. As the 20th century progressed, Native American arts began to experience a revival. Indigenous artists, sculptors, and musicians began reclaiming their cultural heritage and bringing it to the forefront of American society. Traditional crafts, such as beadwork, pottery, and weaving, were not just artistic expressions, they were expressions of identity and resilience. This cultural renaissance brought Native American art into the mainstream. Tribes like the Navajo became known for their intricate textiles, and Hopi potters for their distinctive pottery. Native American art festivals, museums, and galleries have helped preserve these traditions while also fostering a new generation of artists who continue to bridge the past and the present. In 1988, the U.S. government passed the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, which allowed Native American tribes to operate casinos on their reservations. This was a game changer for many tribes, providing a much-needed source of revenue that could be reinvested into their communities for education, healthcare, and infrastructure. The introduction of gaming on native lands sparked significant economic growth, but it also sparked controversy and debates about sovereignty, ethics, and the potential for exploitation. While some tribes have seen great success, others have faced challenges in managing this newfound wealth. One of the greatest challenges for Native American communities has been access to quality education. Historically, Many Native American children were subjected to the horrors of boarding schools, where they were stripped of their languages and cultures. These experiences left deep scars in many families and communities. In recent decades, efforts to improve education for Native American youth have gained traction. Native-run schools and educational programs are helping to preserve tribal languages and traditions, and more Native American students are attending college. The future of Native American education lies in blending traditional knowledge with modern skills to empower future generations. Native American sovereignty has been a long and difficult battle. While tribes have regained some autonomy through laws like the Indian Self-Determination and Education Assistance Act of 1975, there are still significant struggles when it comes to controlling their lands, managing resources, and governing themselves. Modern-day sovereignty battles often revolve around issues like environmental protection, land use, and legal jurisdiction. The fight to reclaim land and maintain cultural practices is not just about preserving the past. It's about securing a future for Native American peoples and their rights to self-determination. For Native American tribes, spirituality and culture are deeply intertwined. Many tribes view the earth as sacred, and their spiritual practices reflect a deep respect for nature. Rituals, ceremonies, and dances connect them with the spirit world and the land that sustains them. Tribes like the Lakota Sioux and Navajo place great emphasis on spiritual practices such as the Sweat Lodge ceremony, the Vision Quest, and healing rituals. These spiritual practices not only promote physical well-being, but also reinforce the tribe's connection to their ancestors, to each other, and to the land itself. Storytelling has always been central to Native American cultures. Legends, myths, and oral traditions passed down through generations have served as the foundation for tribal identity and community cohesion. Native American storytellers were often revered as keepers of history, as they carried knowledge of their people's triumphs, struggles, and sacred teachings. The tradition of storytelling continues today in various forms. Native authors like Sherman Alexie and Joy Harjo are reshaping how Native stories are told, reaching broader audiences while staying true to their cultural roots. These voices are an essential part of preserving Native American history and culture. Native American veterans have served in every U.S. military conflict, from World War I to the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. In fact, Native Americans have one of the highest rates of military service per capita in the United States. Many Native American warriors have carried the same spirit of resistance they once used to fight for their lands into the military. Veterans like Ira Hayes, a Pima Indian who helped raise the American flag on Iwo Jima during World War II, became heroes in both the military and in Native American communities. Despite their service, however, many Native American veterans still face challenges when it comes to receiving adequate health care and recognition for their sacrifices. While many Native American communities have thrived in the modern era, they still face numerous challenges. Poverty rates are higher than the national average, and many reservations lack access to quality health care, education, and employment opportunities. This disparity continues to be one of the most pressing issues facing Native American communities today. Many Native Americans are working to change this reality. Tribes are developing new industries, from ecotourism to sustainable energy projects, to generate income and improve the quality of life for their people. However, these efforts are often hindered by bureaucratic obstacles, as well as the continued fight for sovereignty and land rights. The fight for accurate Native American representation in the media has been an ongoing battle. For years, Hollywood portrayed Native Americans as either violent savages or peaceful innocents, rarely showcasing the complexity and diversity of their cultures. This misrepresentation contributed to the marginalization of Native American people. In recent years, however, Native American filmmakers and actors have begun to take control of their narratives. Films like The Revenant and Smoke Signals have highlighted Native American experiences in a more nuanced and respectful way. Native American actors, writers, and directors are now making strides toward a future where their stories are told authentically. In the modern era, Native American tribes are at the forefront of environmental protection. Many tribes view themselves as stewards of the land, and they are increasingly involved in battles to protect natural resources from exploitation. A notable example is the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, which led a protest against the construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline, arguing that it would contaminate their water supply and threaten sacred lands. This protest brought national attention to the environmental issues affecting Native communities and sparked a broader movement for environmental justice. Native American activism today is often centered on the fight to protect water, land, and natural resources for future generations. Traditional Native American agriculture is based on the concept of sustainability and respect for the earth. Indigenous farming methods, including the Three Sisters planting technique, corn, beans, and squash, helped maintain healthy ecosystems and provided a stable food source for generations. These techniques were developed long before the arrival of European settlers and are still used by some Native communities today. In the modern world, many tribes are working to revive traditional farming practices, combining ancient wisdom with modern agricultural techniques to promote food sovereignty and sustainability. This movement is not just about food, it's about reclaiming a way of life that has always been in balance with nature. The health of Native American communities has been a major concern for many years. Native Americans have higher rates of chronic diseases, such as diabetes, heart disease, and mental health disorders, than the general population. These disparities are often linked to a history of trauma, displacement, and lack of access to health care. However, there are efforts within Native communities to address these health challenges. Many tribes are integrating traditional healing practices with modern medicine, emphasizing the importance of holistic approaches to health that focus on mind, body, and spirit. This fusion of tradition and modernity is helping Native communities reclaim control over their well-being. In recent years, Native American tribes have been increasingly successful in reclaiming land that was once taken from them. Legal battles combined with political and social activism have allowed some tribes to regain important cultural and spiritual sites. The return of land is often a symbolic and practical victory for Native peoples, as it allows them to reassert their sovereignty and reconnect with their ancestral heritage. One notable example is the Pequot tribe of Connecticut, which regained a significant portion of its land and built a successful casino enterprise. While these gains are important, there are still countless struggles for land and resource rights across the country. The younger generation of Native Americans is crucial to the survival of their culture. In recent years, there has been a push to increase access to quality education for Native youth and to incorporate Native American history, language, and culture into the curriculum. Many Native youth are now pursuing higher education at universities and colleges, determined to help preserve their culture while also excelling in the modern world. Native American youth are also at the forefront of activism, whether it's in environmental justice, tribal rights, or the fight for social change. These young leaders are continuing the legacy of resistance, strength, and resilience that has defined their people for centuries. One of the most significant losses faced by Native American communities has been the erosion of their languages. For many years, the U.S. government's policies of assimilation, particularly through boarding schools, attempted to strip Native Americans of their languages. Today, many Native languages are in danger of disappearing, with only a handful of fluent speakers remaining. However, there is a movement to revive these languages. Tribal schools, language immersion programs, and modern technology are being used to teach younger generations. The resurgence of native languages is not only about cultural preservation, but also about reclaiming identity and pride. Music has always played a central role in Native American life. From the haunting sounds of the flute to the powerful rhythms of the drum, Native American music is deeply spiritual and connected to the land. Many traditional songs are passed down through generations, carrying the stories, struggles, and triumphs of the people. Today, Native American music continues to evolve, blending traditional sounds with modern genres. Native musicians like Robbie Robertson and Crystal Shawanda have brought Native American music to a global audience, ensuring that the voice of Native peoples is heard in the modern cultural landscape. In recent years, Native Americans have increasingly stepped into positions of political power. Leaders like Deb Haaland, who became the first Native American woman to serve in the U.S. Cabinet as Secretary of the Interior, are paving the way for future generations of Native American politicians. Her appointment was a historic moment for Native Americans, symbolizing the growing political influence of indigenous peoples. Native American leaders in state and local governments are also making significant strides in advocating for the needs of their communities, particularly when it comes to healthcare, education, and environmental justice. Their leadership continues to inspire younger generations to become involved in politics and advocacy. Native American tribes have always had a profound connection to the land, often seeing themselves as caretakers of the earth. Many indigenous philosophies emphasize the importance of maintaining a balance with nature, respecting the land, animals, and natural resources. This stewardship has become increasingly important in the face of environmental challenges. Tribes today are actively involved in environmental issues, from combating climate change to protecting sacred lands from development. Tribes like the Hopi and Zuni have been at the forefront of advocating for sustainable water practices, while the Navajo Nation has taken steps to clean up uranium contamination on their lands. Health disparities remain a significant issue for Native American communities. Native Americans face higher rates of chronic conditions such as diabetes, heart disease, and substance abuse, largely due to a combination of historical trauma, poverty, and limited access to health care. Many Native communities live in rural areas with few medical facilities, and those that do exist are often underfunded. However, many tribes are working to address these issues by improving healthcare infrastructure, promoting traditional healing practices, and advocating for better federal support. Health initiatives that combine both modern and traditional approaches are helping to address the unique needs of Native American populations. The younger generation of Native Americans is increasingly active in fighting for social justice, environmental protection, and the preservation of their culture. Native American youth are using social media, organizing protests, and participating in political movements to make their voices heard. From the Standing Rock protests to the rise of youth-led environmental activism, Native American youth are taking a stand on issues that affect their communities. They are the new generation of leaders who are determined to carry the torch forward, ensuring that their heritage remains strong for generations to come. The legacy of Native American heroism is one that transcends time. From legendary warriors like Geronimo and Sitting Bull to modern-day activists like Winona LaDuke and Russell Means, Native Americans have always fought for justice, sovereignty, and the protection of their people. These figures have become symbols of resilience, bravery, and determination. Their stories continue to inspire and educate others about the strength of the Native American spirit and the ongoing struggle for recognition and justice. While many Native Americans still live on reservations, a significant number now live in urban areas. The transition to city life has presented unique challenges, including issues of identity and community cohesion. However, urban Native Americans have found ways to maintain their cultural heritage while adapting to modern life. Native American organizations in cities have become important hubs for preserving culture, offering support services, and advocating for indigenous rights. These communities are a vital part of the broader Native American identity, showing that Native peoples are not confined to rural reservations, but are active in shaping the future of the nation. The fight for accurate Native American representation in educational curriculums has been a long one. For years, textbooks and history classes glossed over or misrepresented Native American history, perpetuating harmful stereotypes. In recent years, however, there has been a push to include more accurate depictions of Native American contributions to society and history. From Native American studies programs at universities to efforts to include indigenous history in primary and secondary schools, the push for greater representation continues. This movement is about not only preserving Native American history, but also ensuring that future generations understand the full scope of Native contributions to the world. Native American writers have long used literature as a tool for resistance, storytelling, and preserving cultural history. Authors like Sherman Alexie, Leslie Marmon Silko, and N. Scott Momaday have reshaped the narrative around Native American life, offering personal and poignant insights into the complexities of identity, culture, and survival. The Native American literary renaissance is not just about chronicling the past. It's about imagining a future where Native Americans are active participants in shaping their destiny. These authors are creating new stories that challenge stereotypes and offer fresh perspectives on indigenous life in America. In addition to literature and music, Native American art plays a significant role in cultural revitalization. Traditional arts, such as beadwork, painting, and weaving, are being revived by young Native American artists. These art forms are not only aesthetic, but serve as a powerful connection to the past, linking generations through shared symbols and traditions. Modern Native American artists are combining traditional techniques with contemporary styles, creating works that reflect both the struggles and triumphs of their people. Art is a vital part of the cultural renaissance, serving as a tool for healing, education, and resistance. In recent decades, Native Americans have become more politically engaged, recognizing the power of their vote. With increasing numbers of Native Americans running for office and advocating for policies that benefit their communities, their political influence is on the rise. The 2020 election was a landmark moment, with Native American voters playing a critical role in several swing states. Native American advocacy groups are now pushing for greater voter access and rights, ensuring that indigenous voices are heard in the political process. As the fight for environmental justice grows, Native Americans are at the forefront of protecting their sacred lands from exploitation. Environmental activism is deeply rooted in Native culture, as many tribes see themselves as stewards of the earth. The Standing Rock protests against the Dakota Access Pipeline are one example of Native Americans taking action to protect their land, water, and resources. Environmental issues such as oil drilling, mining, and deforestation threaten not only Native American lands, but also the global environment. Native American tribes continue to lead efforts to protect both their cultural heritage and the natural world. Spirituality remains a cornerstone of Native American identity. Many tribes continue to practice ceremonies that connect them to their ancestors, the land, and the spiritual world. From sweat lodge ceremonies to vision quests, these rituals are not only central to personal healing, but also to the healing of communities. In the face of modern challenges, Native Americans are increasingly turning to these spiritual practices to find peace and strength. Spirituality offers a way to reconnect with their heritage, heal from trauma, and resist the pressures of assimilation. Today, Native American activists continue to fight for justice, land rights, and the preservation of culture. From legal battles over land to protests against pipelines, Native American activism remains strong. The 21st century has seen the rise of young indigenous leaders who are taking their place on the global stage, demanding that Native American voices be heard and respected. Organizations like Indian Country Today and movements like Idle No More continue to push for systemic change. These activists are working to ensure that Native American communities are no longer ignored, and their rights are fully recognized. The history of Native Americans is a story of resistance, survival, and renewal. From the legendary warriors of the 19th century to the modern-day activists of the 21st century, Native Americans have always fought for their land, their rights, and their future. Their resilience in the face of systemic oppression is a testament to the enduring strength of their culture. Today, Native American communities are reclaiming their heritage, telling their stories, and shaping their own futures. The struggle for justice continues, but so does the spirit of resistance and survival. The legacy of Native Americans is not just one of tragedy, it is one of triumph, resilience, and hope for generations to come. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. Your support helps keep these forgotten Native American voices alive. And please take a moment to watch my other videos. They dive even deeper into Native American history, indigenous stories, and the untold truths that shaped America.